was a scrape across the face. That's what Clark didn't like. And then Mabry came in with a bump.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here because today we're diving into one of the most talked about controversies in the sports world right now. It's all about Rebecca Lobo's defense of Caitlin Clark and the fiery backlash that followed from some of the biggest names in the WNBA. This drama has all the ingredients that make sports so thrilling: defending a rising star, clashing opinions from the basketball community, and a whole lot of passion on both sides. As emotions run high, we'll break down exactly why this situation exploded the way it did, how the players responded, and what it says about the current state of women's basketball. So buckle up and get ready, because this is going to be an interesting one. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark, a name that has been making waves in the world of college basketball. For those who may not be familiar, Caitlin Clark is a force to be reckoned with. The University of Iowa guard has been taking the NCAA tournament by storm with her incredible scoring ability and standout plays. She's not just any player. Clark has redefined what it means to dominate on the basketball court. From draining deep three-pointers from beyond the arc to displaying lightning-fast reflexes, her flashy style of play has captured the attention of fans, commentators, and even casual viewers of the game. Already, she's being hailed as one of the most talented players to ever grace the college basketball scene, and rightly so. Her performances have been nothing short of spectacular, earning her a spot in the basketball history books. However, Caitlin Clark's rise to fame hasn't come without its fair share of controversy. Her bold, confident style on the court, including her trash-talking and signature gestures, has sparked debates about her persona and how it fits into the more traditionally reserved norms of women's basketball. In a sport that has often been characterized by respect and grace, Caitlin Clark's fiery attitude and her unapologetic display of confidence have ruffled some feathers. But here's the thing. Caitlin Clark is unapologetically herself, and that's exactly why so many fans adore her. She brings an intensity and passion to the game that is hard to ignore, and that's what makes her electrifying to watch. Now let's fast forward to a moment that really catapulted Caitlin Clark into the headlines. It was during the 2023 Women's NCAA Championship when Clark went head-to-head with the Louisiana State University Tigers. From the start, she was dominant. Her play, especially during the high-stakes moments, was nothing short of masterful. However, some of her actions, specifically the trash-talking towards LSU's Angel Reese, triggered a fierce response, stirring the pot and igniting debates across social media and sports networks. That's when things really got interesting. The situation escalated quickly, with public opinions divided and emotions running high on both sides of the rivalry. The 2023 Women's NCAA Championship was a historic moment in college basketball, and it will go down in history for many reasons. At the center of this monumental game was Iowa's Caitlin Clark, who had already been the driving force behind her team's incredible journey to the final. With the entire nation watching, Clark's aggressive and unapologetic style of play captivated audiences. Her dramatic three-pointers, lightning-fast pace, and fiery, intense demeanor not only made her a standout player throughout the tournament, but they also cemented her place as one of the most exciting figures in college basketball. It was clear from the beginning that she was a player with an unstoppable drive and undeniable talent. However, the drama reached its peak during the final game against LSU, where emotions were running high. As the two teams battled it out for the title, Clark and LSU's Angel Reese exchanged several heated moments, including trash-talking and signature gestures. One of the most iconic and controversial moments of the game occurred when Reese mimicked Clark's now famous "you can't see me" gesture. This hand wave, which Clark had done earlier in the tournament, became a symbol of defiance, and Reese's replication of it after making a big play became a turning point in the game. This moment sparked an immediate and intense debate across social media and sports networks. Some viewed it as an expression of fierce competition, a natural part of rivalry and basketball's intensity. Others, however, saw it as disrespectful and poor sportsmanship. The public's reaction was divided, and the controversy only deepened as media outlets began to analyze and debate the incident. What was originally just a fierce basketball rivalry between two talented teams quickly evolved into a much larger conversation, one that examined deeper issues of race, gender, and how women athletes are often judged and perceived in ways that their male counterparts may never face. Enter Rebecca Lobo, a former star player for the Yukon Huskies. Lobo is a Hall of Famer and a beloved figure in the world of women's basketball. She's known not only for her outstanding career on the court, but also for her intelligent analysis and role as a commentator for ESPN. Over the years, Lobo has become a trusted voice in basketball, offering insights on the game's most significant moments and offering a perspective that reflects her deep understanding of the sport. So, when the drama between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese erupted in the aftermath of the 2023 Women's NCAA Championship, it was no surprise that Rebecca Lobo was quick to weigh in on the controversy. Following the championship game, Reese was criticized by some for taunting Clark with a similar gesture, a hand wave in front of her face, something Clark had famously done earlier in the tournament. It was seen by some as an act of disrespect, crossing the line between competition and bad sportsmanship. But Lobo, ever the defender of women's sports and the bold personalities that come with it, stepped in to defend Clark. She argued that Clark's actions weren't malicious or disrespectful. Instead, they were a natural expression of the intensity and emotion that makes sports so thrilling. Lobo emphasized that Clark was simply channeling her competitive energy, and that this behavior, while perhaps dramatic, was an essential part of what made the game exciting. But here's what made Lobo's comments particularly significant. She wasn't just defending Clark's actions in the heat of the moment, she was also defending the broader concept of individuality in women's basketball. Lobo has always been a staunch supporter of women athletes, embracing their unique personas, their quirks, and their emotions, whether it's trash-talking, performing bold gestures, or showing off a flashy play. In her view, women's sports, including the WNBA and college basketball, need more of that kind of boldness, not less. Athletes, particularly women, should feel free to express themselves in whatever way feels natural to them, without fear of judgment or being labeled negatively. However, this is where things took a turn. While Lobo's defense of Clark was well-intentioned, it didn't sit well with everyone in the women's basketball community. Not all players were on board with Lobo's perspective. This sparked a fierce backlash, especially from some prominent WNBA players who were quick to voice their concerns. For these players, the situation was more complex than Lobo's defense of Clark as simply competitive energy. The disagreement revealed a deeper divide over how women's basketball should be represented and how athletes should express themselves within the sport. This is when the instant rage from some WNBA players kicked in, and the drama went from a basketball rivalry to a full-blown clash of opinions about race, gender, and the broader culture of women's sports. A firestorm of reactions came in almost immediately after Rebecca Lobo's comments, and it didn't take long for the backlash to intensify. Some WNBA players, both current and former, were far from thrilled with Lobo's defense of Caitlin Clark. They felt that Lobo, in her effort to support Clark, was overlooking the long history of trash-talking and dramatic moments that have plagued women's basketball over the years. These players argued that actions like Clark's, and the way they're handled by the media, are often misinterpreted or underplayed, particularly when it comes to female athletes. Many felt that the debate should not have centered solely on Clark's behavior, but also on the bigger picture of how women's sports are often treated differently than their male counterparts. One of the most vocal players in the aftermath was former WNBA All-Star Tamika Catchings. Known for her fierce competitiveness, leadership on the court, and advocacy for women's sports, Catchings took to social media to express her frustration with Lobo's comments. Catchings pointed out that it wasn't just about the taunting between Clark and Reese, it was about a much larger issue, the long-standing narrative of how women's sports are perceived and treated differently than men's. She emphasized how women athletes, particularly black women like Angel Reese, often have their every move scrutinized in ways that white athletes like Clark do not experience. Catchings and others called out Lobo for failing to fully acknowledge these complex dynamics at play. It wasn't just Catchings, though. Many other current WNBA stars weighed in, offering their takes on the situation, there was a shared sense of frustration among these players, many of whom have been in the trenches of women's basketball for years. They've had to fight to be taken seriously in a sport that is still often seen as secondary to its male counterpart. These athletes have consistently battled stereotypes about women being too soft or too emotional when it comes to basketball. And they've also dealt with the media's selective outrage over certain behaviors, especially when those behaviors involve players of color. To them, Lobo's comments felt like another glaring example of white privilege in sports, where the same behavior that would lead to criticism or even punishment for a black player is often overlooked or even celebrated when done by a white athlete. This is a point that has been raised repeatedly in discussions about race and gender in sports. The perception that black women athletes have to work harder to gain respect, while their white counterparts often face less scrutiny for similar actions, is a reality that many in the WNBA have experienced firsthand. The frustration with Lobo's defense of Clark wasn't about the players disagreeing with the idea of sportsmanship. It was about acknowledging the unequal standards that exist in the world of women's basketball and understanding how race plays a significant role in shaping these conversations. One of the key arguments from the WNBA players who were upset by Rebecca Lobo's defense of Caitlin Clark revolved around the issue of fairness in how athletes are judged. Many players felt that while Clark's actions were certainly fiery and competitive, they weren't being critiqued in the same way that Angel Reese's actions were. The issue wasn't merely about sportsmanship. It was about the long-standing narrative of how women's sports, especially women's basketball, are perceived and treated differently than men's sports. The fact that the media, commentators, and fans seem to focus more on Reese's disrespectful behavior than Clark's, despite both players engaging in similar actions, left these players feeling frustrated. They believed that the narrative surrounding Reese was disproportionately harsh, while Clark's fiery antics were either overlooked or excused. One player even went as far as to say that if a black player had pulled the same moves that Clark did, the narrative would have been entirely different. The tone would have been far more critical, framing the actions as disrespectful, arrogant, and damaging to the integrity of the game. But because Clark is a white player, the media and the public painted her as a passionate competitor, which left a bitter taste in the mouths of many WNBA players. They couldn't help but feel that the media's selective outrage highlighted the racial double standards that persist in the world of sports. For many in the WNBA, the larger issue wasn't necessarily about the trash talking or the taunting itself. It was about the broader systemic issue of how women's sports, particularly the WNBA, are often forced to play by different rules. Rules that limit athletes from fully expressing themselves or being seen as fierce competitors in the same way that male athletes are. There is a prevailing sense that women athletes, especially black women, are often held to higher standards of decorum. Their performances and personalities are scrutinized more strictly, and their actions are more often deemed inappropriate or disrespectful, especially when compared to their male counterparts. This disparity in expectations has led to a pervasive feeling among many WNBA players that they are constantly having to prove themselves, while male athletes are given more leeway to express similar emotions and behaviors without facing the same level of criticism. While all of this drama unfolded, Caitlin Clark herself remained largely unfazed by the public debate. She's always been known for her no-nonsense, focused approach to the game. When asked about the backlash against Reese, Clark famously said, "It's basketball. It's what we do. We compete. We play with emotion." For Clark, it was never about trying to disrespect anyone. It was about playing the game she loved and doing it on her own terms. She wasn't about to let outside noise or the opinions of others change her approach to the game. In a way, Clark's comments helped refocus the narrative back onto basketball itself. She didn't get caught up in the drama or let the controversy distract her. Instead, she continued to focus on what mattered most, playing the game at the highest level and inspiring the next generation of young athletes. So what does this whole drama mean for the future of women's basketball? Well, for one, it highlights the ongoing struggles for racial and gender equity within the sport. The clash between Rebecca Lobo's defense of Caitlin Clark and the backlash from WNBA players is a microcosm of a larger issue that continues to plague women's sports: how athletes are judged and how those judgments are influenced by race, gender, and societal expectations. It's also a reminder of just how far the WNBA, college basketball, and other women's leagues have to go when it comes to embracing diversity and encouraging athletes to express themselves authentically. Women's basketball has long been seen as a gentler or nicer version of the game compared to the men's game. But as we've seen with players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, women in basketball are just as fierce, emotional, and competitive as any male athlete. The key takeaway here is that women's sports need to be a space where all athletes, regardless of race or background, can compete and express themselves without fear of being judged or stereotyped. Whether it's through bold gestures on the court or outspoken opinions off the court, women athletes should have the freedom to be unapologetically themselves.
In the end, the controversy over Rebecca Lobo's defense of Caitlin Clark serves as a powerful reminder that women's sports, particularly women's basketball, are not just about the game itself. They're about the personalities, the emotions, and the narratives that come with it. Whether it's Caitlin Clark's fierce competitiveness or Angel Reese's unapologetic attitude, both athletes are contributing to a shift in the culture of women's sports. So, what do you think? Was Rebecca Lobo right to defend Caitlin Clark, or do you agree with the WNBA players who felt that Clark's actions were being overlooked? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more content on the latest in sports, drama, and everything in between. Until next time, stay passionate and keep playing the game.